This isn't a 2008. It's different. It's going to be bad, but I don't know that it's going to necessarily hit the housing market in that way. And
welcome to How to Real Estate Podcast, a podcast to help you start, elevate, and catapult your real estate investing career. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new podcasts that we post every single Monday. Jared tested.
Jana approved.
All right, guys. Hi, welcome to How to Real Estate Podcast. This is Jared.
And this is Jana.
And we're here. We're really excited to bring on this special guest, a special edition we have on. This guest, I have met him when I first started to learn about investing in real estate. He's been someone I admired from the get-go and still do. So this guest, he's been in real estate for well over 15 years. He's done commercial real estate, countless fix and flips, land deals. He's lent for private money, residential buy and holds, and he has actually made six figures profit on several deals, like multiple deals, more than one. I mean, I'll be happy with one. So happy to bring on Christion Sadler. Christion, how's it going?
Good.
We're really happy to have you on and honored and especially this time with what's going through. It's kind of crazy with the social distancing and the coronavirus. And so one of the hopes we have of bringing you on is kind of get someone with a lot more experience than us, than Jan and myself, to kind of have your feel and what's your general opinion on the coronavirus, and as far as how is it affecting the marketplace as an investor or even as a home buyer. I mean, do you have any initial thoughts just from the get-go as far as how this is affecting, or have you seen it, and what do you predict?
Well, so here's the thing. Nobody knows, right? And that's the big thing that you have to understand right now is nobody really knows. And unfortunately, it seems like the narrative is either one extreme or the other. And there's very little common sense coming out about much of this. So one extreme is, oh, this is no big deal. It's going to blow over and you don't even have to worry about it. I don't agree with that. That is way too much of an extreme. There's no way that the stock market can lose 30% of its value in, like a week's time frame or whatever that time frame was, and have nothing come from it. So this isn't just going to blow over. Things are going to change. Now, the other extreme is you have people that are saying this is the end of the world. It's the apocalypse. You have the big money powers that are taking over, and we need to go hide in a bunker somewhere. I'm definitely not to that extreme either. I definitely don't think that we need to, run away and stockpile all of our items and hide in a bunker and wait it out. I think that there's, some middle ground that we have to, look at what's really happening on the market, and we have to watch it daily. That's the thing about it is I am consuming a lot of information, but I'm very careful about where that information comes from. And also I pay attention to the agenda of the person on the other line, the person that's giving that information. So anything that I'm sharing with you guys today, there's a little bit of my opinion, but a lot of it is what I'm hearing based on, I'm getting into conversations with very high level entrepreneurs and investors and people that are doing things in the market right now, because those are the people that I want to hear from. The people that are in control of the money, the people that are, doing deals right now and have things happening, the people that are listing properties, the people that are buying properties, because they're going to see what changes the fastest. And so I want to watch those changes by seeing what's happening in their business as well as within our own.
How frequently are you seeing these changes? Because it seems like, as I'm seeing the market and as I'm hearing things from loan officers and just reports in general, it seems like it's changing a few times throughout the day. You hear different things. Yeah. How often are you seeing that?
Yeah, so it's a constant change. That's really what it is. And I'll just give you guys some perspective. I mean, I just got home 2 days ago. I left for a Hawaii trip and I was gone for 2 weeks. And when I left, it was no big deal. I mean, there wasn't much happening. There wasn't much being said about it. I mean, traveling was, was not an issue. And a lot of the time that I was spent there, I wasn't hearing much about it. Now, part of that was I was on vacation mode. So I wasn't paying attention to social media. I wasn't, reading the news. I don't read the news anyways, or I don't pay much attention to the news anyways. And so I wasn't seeing a lot of it. But by the end of my trip, I mean, they were literally shutting down beaches. They had cops patrolling and, basically asking people to leave. And when I was leaving, they had a lockdown order that basically said, if you go to Hawaii, you have 2 weeks mandatory quarantine. And quite frankly, there's nothing open. So once you're done with the quarantine, there's not a whole lot to do.
You're done with your vacation.
I got there at the perfect time. I left at the perfect time, I guess, is the only way to look at it. But now that I've been here in Utah for the last couple of days, I've been getting information from wherever I can, and I'm trying to get as much up to date as possible. So as many of these live webinars that I can get on with people who are, like I said, in the market and taking massive action and have properties and have money, those are the people that I'm listening to.
And I think you bring a really good point. I mean, a lot of times when we're reading, there's so many articles that pop up on people's news feed, Facebook posts, and a lot of them some of them are based on true facts and good information. Other are just based on, because of, like you said before, the agenda. Maybe they're pushing something. They want you to buy houses. Oh no, the house market's fine, buy now, or they don't want you to buy, whatever it may be. So what sources do you use? Do you actually find out? You say you talk to people that are doing stuff in that are active and doing things. So is there like a particular whether website you like to go look on, or is it where do you go to find some of this information where our listeners can also do the same?
Yeah, because I am not great with keeping up to date on current events or news, I don't know the best sources of the information. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to my most successful friends and colleagues. And those are the people that I'm talking to. And then especially when that can come together in a group setting. And so there's a local hard money lender here in Utah who's put together quite an awesome little webinar. And it was more just like keeping the dream alive, keeping things positive. And a lot of the big players here in Utah have been getting onto that webinar and giving their insights, not only the ones that he has coming on to speak, but also the ones that are commenting and interacting within that little group. So that's one of the things that I pay attention to. Now, with that, when you're looking at it and you have people that have money in the market, they are going to be extra optimistic because they want the market to recover. They want their money, to come back to them. And so you have to kind of listen through the lines, so to speak, in that case. But when you look at the media and what their agenda is, I mean, they're there to sell news. And unfortunately, we live in a world where bad news sells. And so, yeah, that's that whole sensationalism that I try to stay away from the best I can. So for the most part, what I'm doing is I'm just searching for the information that is specific to me, that relates to what I feel like I need to know. So with the big stimulus package that's coming down the pipeline, I want to know what that's all about. I want to know who's getting money. I want to know how it affects small business owners. I want to know if there's, an opportunity there to, help me weather the storm. And if not, what information is there and how can I help the other people that are in the market that are being affected by this right now?
So with all the information you're kind of gathering from, and I think that's very wise, is kind of find people that are doing, have money, and understand where the motives are. So with that information, would you buy a flip today?
Yes.
Or are you still looking for flips?
Actively looking.
Actively.
Yes.
Oh, I put myself on mute on accident. So would you, so you're actively looking for flips. Are you, when you're looking at flips, are you looking for a little bit more cushion just in case things go to crap, or it's the same business as usual? What's your strategy at this moment?
Oh yeah, definitely changing, the way that I analyze a property. And this is what I'm seeing across the board from many of the people that are successful right now is their after repair value. It's kind of up in the air right now of what the market's going to do. And so for a lot of people, what they're doing is whatever their value is based on what they can look at, because we can only look at historical data to come up with an estimate of what we think the value is going to be, right? And so what most of them are doing is they're chopping 10% off of that right off the bat. And the other thing that we're really focused on is making sure that you can have multiple exit strategies, and specifically long-term strategies for any property that we're buying. So our goal now is to get in and buy the properties with seller financing, give ourselves some options to where, you know what, if we get to the end of the remodel and it's not ready to sell, we can turn around and rent it out. The other thing to do is create a lot of partnerships, so one of the things that we're doing to make sure that we have that extended timeline is I've been connecting with people, and I actually started this before the crisis all happened, was connecting with people who have good credit, people that you can bring in as a credit partner that can buy your properties, and you guys can work together on the second part of that deal, I guess you would call it. But then the other thing is getting in front of and making sure you're connecting with the people that do have money and finding out if they are going to put that money to work. What we're finding is there's a lot of people right now that are getting access to their cash, and this is probably going to be another topic that we get to, but they're getting access to that cash. A lot of them are paying interest on it just so they have access to it, and they're wanting a safe, secure place to put it, and real estate has always been that.
I just had a question on the hard money lenders, because I've heard that, whereas before they were so easy to loan, now they're taking 7 to 10 days to really evaluate the deals that are coming across the table. Have you heard or have you experienced that?
Well, so I'm talking to hard money lenders specifically in some of these conversations, and many of them are saying they're ready to lend. Like, they're ready to take advantage of the opportunities. But yeah, they are going to watch the market. They're definitely going to do more due diligence than they might have done before. They're going to be a little bit more conservative with their numbers. And a lot of them are analyzing the person in addition to the deal. So we were in a market here where, if you had a deal that it was even decent, lenders were willing to lend based on the property. And so now what we're finding is some of these lenders are now coming to the point where they're saying, okay, I'll lend based on the deal, but I need to understand more about you as a borrower. And if you don't meet the criteria as a borrower, even if that just means experience, right? If you have less experience, they're going to lend you less on that deal. They're probably going to give you less of the purchase price. They're going to lend less of the repairs if that's something that they even do, based on your experience, because they're going to want you to have more skin in the game if things do fall apart.
So a good idea for a new person that's just starting out, but they still want to invest and do some things, is if they don't have that experience behind them, is maybe to find someone like yourself or me or Jenna that's done quite a few flips and partner with and to have that experience under their belt, even if they're not active, but they're still involved in the deal. Would you recommend something like that for a newbie, or a different way to go about it?
Absolutely. Joint ventures are key right now, even for more experienced people. What I'm seeing is people are saying, hey, let's create more partnerships. Let's create more to where we have more resources. We have more people, even if we're going to take a smaller portion of the deal because we're spreading it out, we're going to have access to more resources to get that deal done and to sustain whatever might come down the pipeline based on this crisis.
That's awesome. So with a lot of strategies, people find deals, for the fix and flips or whatever it is foreclosures. And right now, the federal government has impeded a moratorium on foreclosures and direct mortgage services to offer forbearance or to reduce payments on mortgages and just basically stopping foreclosures at the time being. Do you foresee a lack of with the lack of foreclosures being processed? Do you see that being a problem with some investors finding deals?
Yes and no. There's still going to be people with motivation. This is only a temporary thing. So a lot of those sellers, and this is part of, like I said, being in the conversation with people that are out there, talking to these people, is there's a lot of those sellers that know they're going to lose it anyway, and they'd rather just be done with it because this is a problem. This is already a fear weighing on their shoulders, and now they have all these other fears that are coming into the market. So if you can come and you can relieve this problem so that they can just put their focus over here, there's an opportunity to get deals right now. People are waking up to the fact that they're just in a position where they need to get that burden off their shoulders. And so, yes, it's going to be different, but no, I don't think it's going to be a problem finding deals. I would make sure that you're mastering a strategy. You're focused on a specific list of properties and going after that list with a specific strategy of contacting. It's not the time to be haphazard with your time. It's time to reinvest your time as effectively as possible.
So you're saying something like focus on whether it's divorces, foreclosures, find a niche or a group of people you can effectively target, and then work on how to contact them, find the best scripts, and find the best way that you can communicate with them, whether that's through calling them, door knocking, or letters or emails, whatever. Is that you're referring to, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I would make sure you're building a strategy specific to the potential guidelines that might come down. Because if we're on a mandatory lockdown, so to speak, where we're not supposed to leave our house, there's still so much that can be done in real estate. I mean, you can skip trace, and you can make phone calls, and you can, use social media to look for people. You can, do all these different things. So you're not out of the game just because you can't go knock on the door physically. In fact, knocking on the door physically is going to be less effective, I would imagine, with everything that's going on. People probably don't want, someone else knocking on their door. And so because that's going to be less effective, it's a good time to innovate.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and it's a challenge I'm personally facing right now this second. So I have an older gentleman that wants to sell one of his old properties. He's been in and out of the hospital. He's not super healthy, so he doesn't want to. He's very active as far as the social distancing. We have like a verbal confirmation as far as like he's good with my price to purchase this property, 100,000. However, he doesn't want to physically touch me or meet me or anything like that at all. And he's not super normally I'd just be like, hey, here's your DocuSign, let's do it electronically. Do you have any ideas, if any, and I may just have to wait this one out. And he's not in a hurry. He's not going to foreclosure or anything like that. So he's totally fine waiting. So he's like, yeah, when this blows over, then we can just sign the documents and get taken care of. Do you have any ideas for someone that's in that situation, especially the elderly, not super tech savvy, that may be willing to but doesn't want to actually, face-to-face contact?
Well, people are being forced right now to understand technology. That's one thing that I'm figuring out. I mean, kids are now going to school online. You have people that just refused to embrace technology that are now essentially, cut off from the world. And most of us humans don't want to be that way too long. We want to connect with other people. And so we're being forced to be on, in these online meetings and different things. And so something like a DocuSign is probably the most likely scenario. You just might have to do a little bit more to walk him through that. So one idea would be to do a Zoom webinar with him and walk him step by step through the process, or to create a video that's very simple that he can, literally click the link on his email or on his phone, find out if he's got a smartphone. Because what I found is sometimes, the older generation that doesn't embrace technology, they can do limited things, and you have to find out what they have mastered. And it's usually either they can do certain things on the computer, but their phone doesn't even have, it's not even a smartphone, right? Or it's the opposite, where they don't even own a computer, or they don't open their computer, but they have a smartphone and they're able to do certain things on there. So I would just kind of have a conversation with him that way. The other thing would be is if he's going to be going out anyways, you could potentially have that done like at a title company, or you could even have a mobile notary that could go and get those signatures for you. I'm sure there's options. You might even talk to him about, not getting face to face, but standing, further away from each other and offer to wear a mask. Many of us are not afraid as much of us contracting the virus as we are giving it to somebody else. And so that's what I would, act on with somebody of that nature.
Yeah, you could leave it at the door, even maybe print it out, put it in an envelope, and just leave it at the door, and he can provide him with some gloves. And, there's, like Christian was saying, there's just different ways, or if they have somebody that goes to the home, someone that does their purchases, or a nurse or something like that, they could also help them with using the technology. Maybe you could catch them at the right time.
Yeah, I like the idea of leaving the contract there and running away. Contract ditch. That's good. That's a good
Yeah.
idea. Awesome.
Maybe you could offer him like a clean space, if you've got an office, say, hey, listen, I will have my office sterilized and you can go in there and, if that's an option. But I think the online options are going to be your best. And if you can do something where because I know a lot of us, when we're dealing with a homeowner like this, they kind of need to be walked through the contract and what things mean and what each line is. And that's usually the easiest when we're sitting there with them there in person. But a Zoom webinar is almost just the same thing. So you can sit there and they can have their copy and you can have your copy and you can potentially go through it line by line and show them what's going on.
Yeah, this is really good ideas, and this is, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's having the same challenges. So that's really good for us just to have, or good tips.
I would like to ask you guys some questions because that's part
Please.
of the benefit of this, and the reason that I even want to be on these podcasts is I want to be talking to the people who are in the market, and I know you guys are out there, making things happen. So there's two things that I'd like to know from you guys. First of all, what are you doing to make sure that you're helping as many people as possible and taking advantage of the opportunities that are there by solving those problems? And second of all, what are you doing to shore up your own foundation, your own home? What are the things that you're doing to prepare for, what could be us holding out for the long haul?
Well, you want to go first, Jerry?
These are some really good questions. As far as helping people as much as I can, to provide that same value, it's basically the same thing I have been doing. It's just trying to help people out of tough situations, calling hundreds of people a day, trying to help them, not just to find a deal to earn money for myself and my family, but also to get them out of those tough situations. I know what it feels like to be in tough financial situations, and it's not a fun situation to be in. I've been in where there's been bill collectors calling me, and it just sucks. And especially as a man, pride is just like, I'm supposed to provide a family when you're not doing as well as you like. It's really like hurtful as a pride thing goes. So me being out there giving someone else another option that they did not know about, I feel is a great value, is what I offer to other people that are going through with a foreclosure, bankruptcy, or divorce, or whatever it may be, to alleviate this headache. Like you said earlier, that people still have that weight on them of that potential foreclosure or the potential problem that they're facing. So that is one thing that I've been doing, to trying to alleviate giving some help back to the world, and I'm making money in the process at the same time. Another thing is to, as far as make sure my house is in order, is to, I'm in a capital building stage. I'm not necessarily in a buying stage for rentals or anything like that. I'm trying to build as much capital as I can, and then invest it when things go down a little bit. So it's just having a nest egg to protect my family. It's one of the things I've been doing. So I hope that answers your question. How about you, Jana?
So the first one was helping out, right? What I'm doing to help the people out there. So I get a lot of calls from different people, buyers, sellers, and other investors, just wanting to know what's going on in the market, whether it's a good time to buy, whether it's a good time to sell, do I hold on to my property? And it's just providing that information and getting information from them first, because everybody's situation's different. So some people, maybe they've lost their job, so it's not a good time for them to buy because they don't know when they're going to have a job again. Or there's people that are looking to sell that this doesn't really affect them that much, and now's a better time to sell than later, if they're ready to sell. There's no reason to wait. And so it's just trying to find out what their motivation is, what's going on in their lives, and just educating them with their options and helping them make the right decision for them. So that's kind of been what I've been working on for a lot. I've just been on phone calls, it seems like a lot during the day, which is fine. That's what we're here for, and I don't mind sharing that information with everybody. And it's kind of hard to blast out the same information to everybody because everybody's situation's different. But what was the second question again?
Just what are you doing to shore up your own house to prepare for, the potential crisis? or the crisis that's here potentially being longer than we expect?
So I'm just cutting back on just trimming the fat, so to speak. So cutting out on unnecessary advertising or unnecessary purchases that I normally do as far as marketing goes or things like that. I want to analyze what I'm going to need during these times and what my goals are after the process, and see what exactly I need to hold on to now in order to make it through this time. So I just don't want to make any bad decisions during that time. So I got to look at myself in the mirror and give myself my own advice. Is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? So right now I'm actually in the process of moving, but again, there's not that much, inventory out there. And that's what people need to realize is people are still looking to buy and sell. It's not a big, it's not stopping the economy like everybody's sharing, or freaking out about. So
On that note, it's a good segue. When you look back in the history with all because the market, and most people understand this, some people may not, but the market is constantly, it's always a wave. It goes up and down. And so there's been multiple recessions, multiple corrections in the marketplace as far as stock market and even housing. But if you look back, and I want your opinion on this, Christian, when you look back in like when there was recessions and stock market crashes and things like that happening, if you look in the history, the housing markets have actually increased in value over the time. For example, in 1980, the GDP was down 2.2%. The home prices were up 4.5%. If you look down in 1990, the house prices when the GDP was down 1.4%, the house price was still stayed about the same. In 2001, when the internet crash happened, the housing prices went up 4.8%. The only time the housing market actually went down during a recession is when the housing market actually caused the recession, which was in 2008, 2009 timeframe. So, Christian, with this all kind of epidemic coming up and everything that's happening as it is, do you feel that should we be as worried as what the media has kind of let out as far as like real estate investors go and whatnot? Or what's your opinion on that?
Well, it depends what media you're listening to, but for the most part, if it's coming from, the general media, no, you shouldn't be that afraid. This isn't a 2008. It's different. It's going to be bad, but I don't know that it's going to necessarily hit the housing market in that way. And I was looking at those same statistics earlier. Somebody shared on a webinar that I was on earlier that was showing the graph of, the major downturns and how the market continued to go up. And even if you count the Great Recession, which was caused by the housing market, the overall appreciation was, has been 6.34% over, the entire time. And so the market will recover. I think more than anything, we're going to have to see at least a slowdown. And part of that slowdown right now, what we're seeing is it can work in our favor as investors, right? And we don't know for sure how this is going to look. But one thing I see is, for example, there are buyers that are canceling contracts right now, but there's more buyers right behind them. So we had our friend Connor, who he had a property under contract for $5,000 above listing price, and they canceled the contract. And he was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to list for $10,000 under purchase price just to get this thing sold. And he said, you know what, I'm just going to leave it where it is. He relisted he let the property go back onto the market, and then he got an offer at $15,000 above asking price. He had multiple offers. And so people are still buying. We had another friend of mine, Brian. He had a property that he listed last week that went under contract for $16,000 more than purchase price. He had 4 offers on that property immediately when he put it on the market. He listed another one, and I was on the webinar with him 2 days ago, so it was a day before. He put another a property under contract for more than list price. So there are still buyers out there, and if we're in the position right now where we have vacant properties, with everything that's going on, a lot of the sellers, and Jana can probably speak to this, a lot of the sellers are waiting to sell because they don't want people walking through their house, right? It's this whole social distancing thing. So with all of those people not being on the market, if we have the properties that are on the market, then that can, give us the opportunity to capture those sellers those buyers that are still out there buying. And so I'm not sure if I answered your question fully, but you have to kind of look at the opportunity as well as the downside. And I wouldn't be afraid. I would just make sure that you can hold on if you have to. And I would also say, think of creative strategies that can work with what's going on right now. So I got an email from a company out in New Jersey, actually. And so as you know, the East Coast is kind of shut down in some pretty major ways. And so what this company is doing is they have these 3D virtual tours. And so there's companies that do that here in Utah as well. I see a lot of wholesalers that are using, the same technology. And so what they're doing is they're wearing the proper gear that's allowed for them to go out and, do these virtual tours. And in one of their things, they actually showed where they went into a store, and they allow you to walk around the store. You can click on every single item within the store. You can kind of see the up close pictures and the prices and those types of things. So people that are innovating right now are going to be the ones that the wealth is transferred to, because that's what's going to happen right now. Wealth is not going to be lost as much as it's going to be transferred, and it's being transferred in a major way. And so you just have to decide, how can you get in front of the flow of money to make sure that when this wealth transfer happens, it's working in a positive for you. And so this is where, when you ask that question, Jared, of would I buy a flip right now? Yes, of course. I'm looking. In fact, I'm getting more aggressive in the actions that I take. So one thing that has been touted time and time again from all of these people that are successful, that have been through at least one downturn, some of them multiple downturns, they're all saying you got to double down. So yes, tighten your belt on doodads and your luxuries of life, but don't tighten up on marketing. In fact, double down on your marketing efforts. The things that are working for you, you want to do more of, because in some cases it's going to take more to get the same amount of results. But there's going to be more of a bigger win on the back end. So don't slow down on your marketing. Don't slow down on your efforts. Don't slow down on your phone calls. You've got to be talking to more people. You've got to be reaching out to more folks. My phone right now, if you guys saw it, it is blowing up, because I did a text message to over 170 people, 2 hours ago before we started this webinar. And I just have all kinds of people that are responding to me. And many of them are looking for opportunity right now. They're stuck at home. Many of them are in a position where they're stuck at home. They can't do much anyway. So if you have options where they can do something while being at home, there's an opportunity there.
That's a really good idea. I think I'm going to make a post, and who wants to do some calls for me?
Hey, who's bored?
Yeah, exactly. You want to earn some money? Let's do this. That's a really good idea. You capitalize. I think that's smart. Capitalize on this opportunity. And I think it's a matter of mindset, really, is a big thing. Some people are looking at this as the end of the world, or, this is such a bad thing, I'm out of a job, or whatever it is. But if we see and take advantage of the opportunities, like you said, some people are taking their stuff off the market. In fact, I read that someone had a showing and someone stole the person's toilet paper that was in the house. So they went in and they literally stole the toilet paper. But that's hilarious. But
yeah, it's been crazy. I've been I have a few listings coming up, and I have to say, just because of one idiot, just make sure you hide all your stuff. Yeah. Just because you don't know, there's some crazy people out there fighting over toilet paper, so you want to make sure. Hide it.
Right.
And luckily, here in Utah, that has evened out a whole lot. I was luckily not here in Utah when it was crazy and where you couldn't find it, or literally you could go store by store and it wasn't available. But now that I've been back over the last couple of days, honestly, it's been pretty readily available. They're limiting how much you can buy, but I really don't need that much anyways. I only need enough for my own person.
Right. If you needed 20 rolls of toilet paper to last you 2 weeks, I think you should have been to the doctor a long time ago. for the stuff that's in the future, we don't, our crystal ball is not very clear, right? So we really don't know what's going to happen in the future. And, so anyone that's listening, I mean, if we do any guesses, that's what they are. They're just guesses. But with the potential of a lot more people being out of a job, potentially longer, because in China, they had everything kind of quarantined, and then they kind of let up a little bit, and then their infected rate went up. And so they went back to quarantine again. And so if that happens, as far as like people being out of a job more than this month or more than 2 or 3 months, that and who knows, with there's the government's put some plans in place, hopefully to help us out. But do you foresee a potential problem with people being out of the job that long? And would that affect the housing market, or would that give us more opportunity to find those deals? Or what's your opinion on that?
So yes, it will affect the housing market. There's no doubt about it that on the back end of this, if people have been out of a job for too long, the government cannot give enough relief for the amount of Americans that are going to be out of a job. And so in that case, there's going to be a lot of people that need to sell on the back end. And so, yes, you're going to see opportunity. And I really look at it as an opportunity for help, because there's a lot of those people that you might be able to give them the options. And this is one of the things I'm studying as well, is I'm paying attention to what are these mortgage companies doing? I mean, they're going to get a big stimulus, right? But how are they going to use it? How is that going to, affect the homeowners, and how is that going to affect the property owners? So, that's kind of what, when I asked the question to you guys of what are you looking for in ways of helping people, is, there's a lot going on right now, and people need someone that can solve problems. I actually had a friend that I thought it was genius. He's been focused a lot on the mobile home market. And just recently we had the crisis, and then we had the major earthquakes, right? And so there was a whole bunch of these mobile homes that had gotten knocked off of their foundation. He's kind of like right in the epicenter of where there's a lot of these. And so what he's doing is he's figuring out, hey, what is it going to take to get these things, uncondemned? I don't know if that's a real word or not, but uncondemned, to where he can buy them and then turn around and sell them, because that's part of his strategy, is to buy these things and then sell them with seller financing on the back end. One of the things that I think is also coming down the pipeline is, yes, there is going to be a lot of foreclosures, or at least a lot of people that are saying, I don't want to deal with this house anymore, and I need somebody to take it over. The other thing I'm looking at, and this is something that it's already been my focus for 2020, which is commercial real estate, is unfortunately there's a lot of these businesses that are going to be shut down too long. And so that means there's going to be a lot of vacant commercial buildings. And so, there's going to be opportunity there where we can step in and, take over on a triple net lease, or, even purchase the building and then turn around. And as the market recovers, as these new businesses come back into the market, and hopefully there's enough of a stimulus to, kind of allow these people to rebuild. Hopefully we can own the property that they're going to rebuild in.
Yeah, that's a great point there, that we're going to see a lot of listings. We're going to see lot of people needing help to get out of these situations that are caused by being out of work for so long. I've had buyers that have backed out of buying right now because they've been put in situations where they're out of work for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and they don't know if they're going to have a job when they go back.
Mm-hmm.
So having these options where we can come in and, on the seller side, be able to help those guys out, or with commercial spaces, like you're saying, these businesses, who's going to survive? There's no stimulus package for them to be able to survive. Not the little guys, So how can we help, other than, there you go, Super Christian's gonna be to the rescue, buying up commercial properties.
Well, and with those, you have to think those buyers, there's a lot of them that are not going to be able to qualify for a while, right? If they're out of a job for 2 weeks or 4 weeks,
Yep.
or 8 weeks, then the bank is now going to say, well, we need this amount of pay stubs or whatever it is. And so, that's just going to create a lull, but then there's going to be a flood, because a lot of those people that are in a position and that can weather the storm, they will get back to work and they will requalify, and they're going to be even that much more anxious to buy because they feel like they were forced to wait. And so again, that's why right now is the key time to take action. The worst thing that somebody can do is say, I'm just going to wait this thing out and see what happens. We can't predict what's going to happen, but we have to take action right now and, take action as if it's the best case scenario, but, prepare yourself and do it in a way where you're prepared for the worst case scenario.
Plan for the worst, hope for the best, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So is there a certain strategy as far as that's probably the best way to go right now? So for example, if it does last longer, hopefully it doesn't, right? We're all hoping for the best for everyone and no one loses their jobs. But if it does last for 3 or 4 months where people are out of a job, typically that'll decrease the sales in the market. And typically they'll lower the interest rates at that point in time. Do you think that'd be a good time to actually start getting into more buy and holds with traditional financing? Or would just continue doing flips, or what's kind of in this particular time, what would be the best strategy you think for the average Joe to invest in real estate?
Well, so it's really going to depend on them. I think you've got to stick with the strategy that makes most sense to you in your current investing, life cycle, I guess you would call it, and where you're focused. If you're already in the market and you have something that's working, do more of that because you know it already. You're not trying to master something new in a market that's already going to be harder. You're going to continue down the path that you've been working, but you're going to double down, triple down, 10 times your efforts in that scenario. And then just make sure that you have to, you got to look at your own, financial wherewithal on this as well. I mean, I'm talking to people that have tons of reserves and that have, tons of access to capital. And some of them even are pulling their credit lines, especially HELOCs. They're pulling them out and they're paying the interest on them so that they have access to the cash because they want to have that cash readily available so they can use it, first of all, for investing, but second of all, in case they need it for their own family, right? You have some people that don't have access to anything. And, those are the people that, might want to look at that, what credit lines can they get access to and how can they, get access to that capital? Where can they bring money in that they maybe haven't been thinking about bringing money in? What are the doodads that they can get rid of if it's even possible to, to sell them in this market? But what are the things that they can get rid of in order to have more access to capital? And, some people have been working on preserving their credit. And obviously, if you pull all your, credit lines, then that's going to damage your credit. And so they have to weigh out the options. Is it more worth it for me to take the credit hit now so that I have access to cash? Or do I have enough to hold on long term? And if I can hold on long term, I'm going to be at the front of the line when this whole thing blows over, because the banks are still going to want to lend. They're going to want to do business. In fact, they're going to be more aggressive in doing business, especially depending on how, the government issues money out. They may be required to do more business. And so obviously they're going to look at the best qualified buyers first. And so this is what I'm seeing a lot of people doing is they're kind of evaluating their own situation, and then they're getting access to as much cash as they can in order to make sure they can weather the storm and take advantage of the opportunities. So I've got a hard money lender that I've been on some of his webinars, and he's got a big HELOC, and he just pulled the HELOC. He said, I'm going to pay the interest on it for a while, and I'll probably put it into some of my own deals, and I'll charge myself interest on those deals just to make up the difference of what I would be charged. I've got another friend that has a ton of rentals, and he's saying, hey, I've got plenty of reserves, but if everybody stops paying rent, I've got a big nut to crack. So he's considering pulling all of his unsecured lines, because those are going to be the first things hit. When banks start pulling back, the first thing they're going to pull back on is the unsecured lines of credit. And as of right now, the banks aren't doing anything, as far as I can tell. They're more of on a pause. They're not necessarily restricting from what I can tell, but they are more on a pause of what they are, willing to lend and kind of waiting to see, what's going to happen. And so it's hard to determine, because unfortunately, if anybody, on here listening to this, watching this, went through 2008, the banks made some rash decisions, and some of those decisions hurt a lot of people. And I was one of those. I was not prepared to weather the storm, and I got my butt kicked in 2008. And the only thing that kept me in the game as far as real estate investing was my stubbornness, right? I didn't go back and get a job. I just decided to innovate. And the reason that I was able to do that was because I surrounded myself with other people who were in the market, who had been through it, and who were continuing to have success. So I shifted strategies to meet the market. This, as far as I'm looking at it right now, and that could change, in a matter of days. But as I'm looking at it right now, I don't think it's time to shift strategies to meet the market. It's time to double down on the strategy that's already working for you if you have one.
Yeah, that's a great point we don't have right now is a critical point, and we don't have the luxury of learning a new technique or trying to master a new way of doing business. Like you said, it's time to double down on what you're already doing and what you know how to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. That's good. I like it a lot. So is there anything else you think that our listeners would need to know about the market that's coming up, or things that they need to do besides? You give some great advice already as far as like paying attention where we're getting a lot of information from, what their motivations are. Talk to people that are actually doing business, that are like the hard money lenders. You threw an example, and stick to what you know. Actively look for deals, and shouldn't be a real time to really stop. Maybe and plan for a hedge, plan for the worst. Use partnerships, and to have reserves as much as you can, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. Is there anything else that you think our listeners would benefit from knowing, from your vast experience and knowledge, that can help them get through this crisis and capitalize and utilize?
So I would just do everything you can to shore up your own house, and then take massive action in bringing value to others. Don't act out of fear. If you act out of panic right now, then that's probably going to hurt you more than it's going to benefit you. However, there are some things that you definitely want to consider. So as of right now, I'm going on more of a strict budget than I've probably ever been on in my life, and so I'm working with my business partner to make sure that I'm on a strict budget of how I, am spending money during this time frame. And we are looking at, where can we get access to cash? Where can we get access to that cash? And if it's in a credit line, how do we get access to it now so that if things restrict, we have access to that? So you just make sure that you are firming up your own foundation first. You don't have to go overboard. I'm not talking about, going to the point where you're, hoarding the stuff that you really don't need, and not leaving enough for other people. But what I'm saying is put yourself in the best position possible to weather the storm, and then, or simultaneously, I guess I should say, because you don't want that to stop you, but simultaneously take action in bringing value to other people. So one of the things that I know I bring value to people on is I've consistently helped people, put their money to work to make more money. And so I'm actively talking to people who have money, which there's many of them out there. I mean, one of the big reasons the stock market is, crashing so hard is people are pulling their money out so that they don't lose more, right? And so as they're pulling that money out, now it's sitting there and it's not working for them. And so if you can give them a solution of how to put that money to work, that's going to be a good thing. You also have these people that are pulling these home equity line of credits, right? So they've got a HELOC on their house, or and refinances are also going through the roof. So people are refinancing and getting cash out. Everybody's taking cash and they're paying interest on it. They don't know what to do with it, many of them, and so they're gonna look for opportunities. So you just have to look for yourself, is where do you provide the best opportunity? Maybe you don't have the track record of giving people return on their money, but you're willing to go do the work. You've got time on your hands. There's a whole lot of people that have money without a lot of time. There's a whole lot of people that have time without a lot of money. And so be willing to get out there. And if you're brand new in the market, you're just figuring out real estate, partner with somebody. Say, listen, I'll make your files for you, or I'll go out there and start, driving for dollars, and do what you've got to do to go, drum up the deals and take action in this market.
Yeah, one thing I really like about this whole podcast so far was that you, Christian, is always looking at the positive things and how we can add value and not see what we're lacking, but see how we can make this work and how we can help other people. I think that's a big focus, the kind of the advice you've given. And I think it's very solid and true. The more we give out, more value we provide to the marketplace, the more return we're going to get, whether that's spiritual and or economical, to be honest. So I think that's very good. And if any of our listeners can take an action is providing value to others, it'll pay off in the long run. That's for sure. And short term too.
Yeah. And one of the things I heard recently on a webinar is, in times like this, don't act out of fear, act out of love. Now, we all should have a healthy amount of fear with what's going on, meaning we should have a perspective on being prepared. And at the same time, now is the time to really, give back and make sure that you're serving those people around you, because this is when most people's true colors come out, right? And so when people see you as the giver, especially in a market like this, they're going to want to connect with you now and in the future.
That's
Gospel truth.
Yep. Amen.
Yeah. It's awesome. So is there any, so if someone out there that's maybe looking to partner with you or ask more advice from you, how would they reach out to you? Do you have your social media, your email?
Yeah. So Facebook is probably a really great way of doing it. That's where I do a lot of communication. You just got to spell my name right. So it's Christion with an I-O-N, and then it's Sadler, S-A-D-L-E-R. If they want to send me an email, they can. It's Christion, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-O-N, Troy, T-R-O-Y. That's my middle name. So christiantroy@gmail.com. They can even, I say this sparingly, but so please respect it. But you can even reach out to me on my cell phone, 801-330-5433. Again, Facebook is probably the best way. We can, I can do a lot there, and I can kind of, do that on my own time when I need to. Grab me on Messenger if it's something private. I have a lot of people that reach out to me that way. But you can also find me on LinkedIn and any of the other things as well, just at Christion Sadler.
And we're going to have all that stuff in the show notes too. So you guys just click on the link or on the description. It'll have all that information in there as well.
Great. I really appreciate you guys having me on here. And I'm going to pay attention. If you guys have anything that what you feel like is an indicator of what the market's doing, please keep me informed.
Perfect.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. We'll share. That's for sure.
Thank you, Christian, for joining us today. I think that was very helpful information, and it's good to keep in mind that just be there for other people. You're leading by example pretty much. So if you're panicking, everybody else starts panicking, right? So yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
People are seeing enough panic. They need to be more people being productive.
Amen to that. Yeah, that's so true. Well, for our listeners and people that are watching on YouTube, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any other future podcasts. And if you're listening to this on any podcast format, make sure to subscribe and to give us the highest rating. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the support. So like and share as always. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
We hope you liked that podcast. Stay tuned for next Monday for a brand new podcast and a brand new guest. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share.